Hello everyone and welcome back. This is your boy Ryan and today I possibly have the build that might save the scopium of a league for you guys. Today we will be looking into the infamous Indigon MOM miner from Akane. Now if you are someone who absolutely despises miner style gameplay, well fear not, I'm in the same boat as you. But this style of miner gameplay is far smoother than your generic saboteur miner. So buckle up and get ready for a long video. The build is extremely mechanic dependent and without learning proper rotations for buffs, the damage will be non-existent, and when you properly use your abilities, chain them together, everything will start to melt in seconds. The build can be started as soon as you get yourself 2 core unique items, and then it can be gradually upgraded according to your budget into an endgame monster. For this build, as of now, I am using Eye of Winter for clearing and bossing damage, but you can use other abilities like Fireball or Ball Lightning, but the gem setup for those will be a bit different. Now, if you are new to this channel and still haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that like button, smash that subscribe button, and these videos will show up right on your feed. It helps me out as a new content creator and it's free and you can always change your mind. So first, let's look at the Eye of Winter skills and its mechanics. So when this skill is used like this, it releases a big circular projectile, and this projectile is called the Eye. This Eye cannot deal any damage, and this cannot be modified via any kinds of support gems either. While it travels, it releases small shards projectile. These shards are actually the ones that deal damage to the enemy. But there are some tricks to it. This eye travels a short distance and then dissipates. While traveling, this releases shards at a slower rate. When it dissipates, it releases shards at a very higher rate, and it also deals a lot of extra damage after it dissipates and releases shard projectiles. It can only dissipate when it is at the end of its travel distance or it collides with a terrain. So the problem with the Eye of Winter self-casting is that it has a very clunky kind of cast rate. So we use mines to bypass that. And the smaller shard projectile, they deal a lot of damage, but with only a single cast of Eye of Winter, this will not be enough to do anything. So by using like 21 mines, we can release like a lot of Eye of Winter projectiles, and this actually helps us with a shotgun. Another cool trick is the Eye of Winter's interaction with Hydrosphere. So if we place a Hydrosphere over here, like over here, and then we release an Eye of Winter projectile, what happens is, well, actually, for some reason, what happens is the Eye of Winter projectiles get like that. The Eye of Winter projectiles will hit the Hydrosphere, and then they will bounce back to the enemies nearby again. This is especially helpful on bosses. We actually do not have to use Eye of Winter for normal mapping. If you want to, you can precisely place it, but it's really hectic with so many skills and buttons to press. It's better to just use the Hydrosphere on an Arcanist brand setup and forget about it. So that was mainly most of the Eye of Winter skills explanation. And now let's look at the buff rotations for the miner. Okay, let me quickly rearrange the gems because I took them out to show. That should be it. So when we use mines with Eye of Winter, we throw 5 mines together and like this. And when we detonate all of it, we can see that a lot of Eye of Winter projectiles like hit out and they deal a lot of damage. So basically when you're mapping, this is your most of the time clearing packs. You will be shooting like 10 mines and detonate them. This will deal enough damage to clear out small white packs and blue packs most of the time. If it's tanky blue packs or rare packs, what you want to do is you place down your 10 mines and then you pop Arcane Cloak, you regen up mana, and then while the Arcane Cloak buff is active, you detonate all of your mines and then start placing more mines and detonating them again. The trick is to use Indigon to boost the damage. Most of the time, you have to spend mana to get the damage up, because when you're throwing mines, they do not actually trigger Indigon's buffs, or if it actually triggers, it's so low that it's not worth the damage. So we have to use the Arcane Cloak to get our mana being spent, and that ramps up our Indigon damage, and we deal damage that way. So we pop Indigon, we get our mines down, and we release them, we regen back up our mana, and that's how we are sustaining our damage on bosses. And this is a rotation, because Arcane Cloak, when it's active, it doesn't go into cooldown. So after the buff ends, it goes into another cooldown, and we have to wait for that 3 seconds again before we can do our buff rotations. During this time, we just want to prepare our mines, we place them, and then get ready for another burst phase. This is actually a fun playstyle. This reminds me a lot of like Bladefall Blade Blast playstyle. So this is not so tedious when we are not like Saboteur miners. For bossing, what you want to do is you place down all of your mines. Say like we can place around 21 mines. So we place all of our mines. Then we put a Arcanist brand on the boss. This triggers all of our curses like Sniper Smart, the Hydrosphere, and the Wave of Conviction for the exposure. Then we, after we place the Arcanist brand, we want to put down our Sigil of Power. We want to use our cloak of Arcane Cloak, and then we want to detonate as fast as we can. After we detonate all of our mines, during the detonation phase, we want to place more mines and detonate them again within 4 seconds. So this is like 2 burst phases within 1 Arcane Cloak usage. By getting more and more mine throwing speed, this DPS improves by a lot. Like I'm talking about like 200% more damage when we are doing this. When we have enough mine throwing speed, that is, to actually place down a lot more mines. Now let's talk about some defenses for the build. It is one of the tankiest builds out there. We have multiple layers of defenses, including phase acro and acrobatics, with a flask to cap our dodge chances, high evasion. After that, we have 6000 plus mana pool that we can utilize for Mind Over Matter. We can use 40% Mind Over Matter from our gears, then 10% more Mind Over Matter from a Watcher side with Clarity mod, and then another 8% Mind Over Matter from our Ascendancy, getting us to a total of 58% Mind Over Matter. Then we have Vigilance Strike with Fortify, granting us another 20% damage reduction if we choose to. Not to mention that we will be also stacking Flask effect with Parma Flask from the Scion Ascendancy as well. With all of these buffs stacked up, it is one of the fastest and fearless lab runners. I have included a clip of running through Uberlab trials without care of any traps of any sorts. The agnostic node from the passive tree helps us regen so much so fast that this is like ridiculously tanky of a build. Basically, at higher end of the gears, we stop taking any kinds of damage and we just burst everything down before it can even move. Okay, now let's look at the gears and skill tree, ascendancies, flask setup, gems, and other things. Mind you that I do not have any source of perfect gear at the moment. I'm using what I got from the market, and since the league is quite dead within like weeks of release, it's really hard to get a build going. So for our gears, let's start off with the uniques. First, our body armor, it's going to be Cloak of Defiance with a 6-link. This is a huge chunk of mana from the body armor alone with mana regeneration, and of course 10% extra Mind Over Matter along with free Mind Over Matter, making it a 40% Mind Over Matter chest piece. After that, we have our helmet. This is going to be Indigon, our bread and butter for damage. That gives this is like the our source of damage. When we pop Arcane Cloak, spend our mana, we get our damage for 4 seconds. We do our buffs, we do our stuff, we do our damage, and then wait for Arcane Cloak to come back up. That's it. For our amulet, we want Atziri's Foible. This is no doubt the best amulet you can get. A huge chunk of mana and mana regeneration. Nothing beats this amulet, to be honest. Not even mere tier amulets, probably. For our ring, we have one of the unique rings, the Dream Fragment. This is gonna be for our chill immunity and freeze immunity, plus mana regeneration rate as well. And of course, some sorts of cold resistances. For our boots, we have Omeokon, increased mana, all-time onslaught, cool stuff, more mine throwing speed, more damage. And that's all about the rare, the unique gears. For our rare gears, let's start with the weapons. We want 2 weapons, preferably Scepter with 40% increased elemental damage. The increased elemental damage is very strong because we scale 2 elements, both with lightning and cold. The Eye of Winter does cold damage base, but the Arcane Cloak adds lightning damage. So by having increased elemental damage, we scale both of the cold and lightning damage, getting us into a topper end of damage. For the stats on the rare weapons, the priority order is increased critical strike chance for spells. You want at least 80%. Then you want spell damage, at least 60%. Mana, you want close to 100. Then you want crit multi. If you can't have crit multi, then maybe look for one with the open suffix to craft global crit strike multiplier from the crafting bench. And that's the 4 top modifiers to look out for. Other than that, the 5th and 6th modifier can be increased cold damage and gain non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage. But these are extremely high value mods that are hard to hit. Another very rare mod would be chance to deal double damage. But I don't know if they exist without harvest crafting being nerfed to the ground as well. Other than that, for our ring, another rare ring, it would be basically life, mana, resistances, and we don't need anything else. Mana regeneration is like an extra sort of stuff. For our belt, same, life, mana, and resistances. For our gloves, same, but here we want an additional mod, which will be projectiles, pierce, and additional target. This is a crafted mod, Veilcraft mod. You can take it from a benchcraft as well. You need this to have a good clearance for mapping. Otherwise, mapping will feel very clunky. Other than that, let's look at the gem links first. For our main Eye of Winter skill, we want Eye of Winter. Divergent Eye of Winter can be really good. It makes it so that we have our sharp projectiles in a lesser wide cone to hit more targets. Especially this is especially for bossing. It's really good. For the support gem, we have Minefield support. This is our first one. This allows us to have a smoother mine gameplay. Then we have High Impact Mine support. This is really strong. This gives us like 40% chance to deal double damage with more mines up. This High Impact Mine support is our bread and butter when it comes to dealing extra damage. Then we have Charged Mine support. This is basically for generating power and frenzy charges on mining. Then we have increased critical damage support and increased critical strike support, generic damage boosters. That would be our mine setup. For our Arcanist brand setup, we want Arcanist brand with Hydrosphere, Wave of Conviction, and Sniper's Mark. This is mainly for bossing, or if very tanky mobs come up, then we can use this, no problem. For our other utility, we have Arcane Cloak. Make sure you link it with Arcane Surge, and this is a very strong skill. So on a higher budget, when you go into higher budget, we want to buff Arcane Cloak as much as we can with Empower and increase duration for more time for our bursts. But for now, on a low budget, I'm using Arcane Cloak with Arcane Surge and Sigil of Power with Flame Dash. All of them linked together. And then I have an extra skill, Vortex, linked to Bone Chill. I keep this on my left click to all time have some sort of Indigon buff ramped up. Other than that, for our auras, I'm using Clarity and Precision, both at level 20. I want to drop them to level 1 when I have a Watcher's Eye. They are not needed at level 20. For now, I'm not crit capped, neither do I have a huge chunks of mana regen from clusters and stuff, so I'm using them at level 20. And that we have Fortify linked to Vigilant Strike and then faster casting. I think this is just random support generate, but it's not needed. And finally, I have a Summon Lightning Golem. Actually, you want to use a Summon Ice Golem for the extra crit linked to Culling Strike. So if the Golem survives, it can deal Culling Strike damage to bosses and stuff. So that's most of the gear. Now let's look at the flask setup. This is very important. We want a diamond flask for sure. I keep staunching on it. Other than that, we want a quartz flask. I went for curing. That way, we don't have to use the Shakari Pantheon, Lesser Pantheon, and we can focus on something else. We want Wise Oak to cap our resistances. And then we want 2 mana flasks. One would be Enduring. I recommend that you craft the off order on this and then concentrated Eternal Mana Flask. I think staunching on this is better, and then getting something else on diamond will be better as well. For automated flask, this is very, very important. I recommend that you get on the Wise Oak, you get the enchantment of used when an adjacent flask is used, then keep that on the farther side. Then get the Experimental's Diamond Flask, it reused at the end of the flask effect enchantment, and then you pop this once when you are inside a map. You pop this one, and these 2 flasks get automated. Then quartz flask, I want to use when charges are full. This is not needed all the time. With our extremely fast charge gains, this will be up most of the times. For the mana flask, no enchantment is needed. Use them manually. That's the best way to do it. Okay, now let's look at the skill tree, gems and clusters. So we are a Scion. Leveling this character is a pain. I recommend you get a friend to level up or use Hollow Palm technique. I don't know how to level this up. This is a really painful character to level up. So for the tree, we start off from the bottom side of Scion tree, grab clusters, we grab agnostics, we grab dynamo. Make sure you get the small node near dynamo for 20% guard skill cooldown recovery rate. This reduces the cooldown of Arcane Cloak by some amount, so it has a higher uptime. Oh, I forgot. You can get cooldown recovery rate on your belt as well. Then they together will reduce the cooldown of Arcane Cloak even further. Other than that, we grab jewel sockets, we grab all the flask nodes, the new flask node down here, go up, phase acro, working towards the cluster as well, more flask nodes. We get the frenzy charges here and here for more mine throwing speed, and then we grab all the mine nodes on the shadow side of the tree. We move up, we get the cluster over here, we get the Throat Seeker, more mana nodes, and flask nodes. For our clusters, main notable for our large cluster, we want Scintillating Idea. Other than that, we want Disorienting Display and another third one that we don't want to allocate, so it goes over here. We want 2 of these, one here and one down there. For our mediums, Liquid Inspiration, it distills perfection. Expensive, very expensive. Working with Special Reserve for now, that's all. And you want 1 of these with Distilled Perfection and Spike Concoction. Upgrade this later with Liquid Inspiration and Spike Concoction together. This is for the Alchemist Genius buff. You want only 1 of these, and then the rest of the 3 will be Liquid Inspiration. And small jewels on the cluster would be Mind Throwing Speed, Mana, and Crit Multi. These are the 3 you want. Mana or health, then Crit Multi, and Mind Throwing Speed. Mind Throwing Speed is very important from the cluster, so that's your order of priority for getting jewels. For anointments, there are basically 2. One would be Forethought, This is the cheaper one, and then the other would be Arcane Capacitor. This would be the expensive one. For your small jewels, the only unique jewel we will be using is going to be the Watcher Sight, and everything else will be rare jewels. Oh, and before I forget, for the Ascendancy, we want the Pathfinder Ascendancy from the Ascendant Tree of Scion, and Hierophant from the Guardian side of the Ascendant Scion passive tree. Recommended pathing for lab trials would be first lab, we get Dexterity and 1 passive point to the Pathfinder node. For second lab, we grab the Pathfinder node, and then we grab the Strength and Int from this side of the Guardian tree. For our third lab, we grab the Hierophant and save the fourth lab for the extra points and get them to the Path of Ranger. With that, the summary of the new build now comes to an end. I hope my explanation was good enough so that everyone can get a grasp on how this build works. For me, the build is still in low budget territory, and I'm working on it to make it to the next level with clusters and better weapon. As of now, of my recording, the amount of budget spent of this build is around 8 to 9 exalts. Most of it because I got a 6 link for 5 exalts, and then I got a cluster for 2 exalts, and then the rest of the budget is for the rare gears and some expensive, maybe if you consider Omeokan and Indigon as an expensive gear, they are like 30C. So I don't really think it's that expensive, but still. In the near future, though, I am planning on upgrading it to the next level with min-maxed gear like high-level clusters, as well as level 21 support gems, good quality weapons, and so on. So stay tuned for a more min-maxed version of the build in a few days. And with that, I hope everyone can enjoy your favorite builds in your favorite game without too much of a negativity. Stay blessed, exiles, and I'll see you in the next video.